Back with another video. Gonna be using the P6 again. Today we're gonna do a little something different. I've been talking about how one of the viewers of this YouTube channel made a recommendation to me about a crafty way to use the samples, and so today we're finally gonna get into that. And what we're actually going to do is this. Let me read this comment, and I'm gonna play it on screen because I am completely in this person's debt. This is a comment that was left by Eternal, and he said, I just realized tonight that you can fit several drum kits in one bank, so you can put several slices on each pad. So put your favorite 8 kicks on A1 in chromatic mode, you can access them, then do the same for snares on A2, then hats on A3, etc. Awesome hack. Thank you so much for leaving me this. I've already played with it a little bit, and the funny thing about this is I went through the Roland manual looking for this because I wanted to make sure that I was approaching it the proper way, and Roland doesn't mention anything about this in the manual. What they do show you how to do is the step sampling, where you turn on the sampling and then you make one sample and then another sample and then another sample, and then you can chop the equally spaced samples up. And what we're going to do today is a function of that. So I loaded some Lindrum samples onto this thing because anybody who watches this channel knows that I love the Lindrum. And basically what I did is I imported those samples into Logic from my samples folder. I took each sample, I shortened the amount of the sample so that I didn't cut off any of the sample or too much of the sample. Like open hi-hats, I cut off an appropriate amount, and then I put the samples so that they're an equal length, each of them. And then I added some compression and some saturation. I used a compressor from Arturia, and I used the Abbey Road saturator from Waves. Those are two plugins that I use a lot when I'm mixing, and I love them. I love the drum sounds that I got. Then I used the P6 sample tool, which you can download from Roland's site. I normalized the samples in there, and I added samples to pads 1, 2, and 3 in bank A. So let's stop talking about it and let's make something with it. So this is what the Roland P6 sample tool looks like on your laptop or desktop computer. And basically, if you wanted to manage your samples, you would plug your P6 in to your laptop or your desktop, and then you would hold down the sampling button while turning on the P6. That's going to enter it into like a storage mode where you can transfer files to it. And then you would access it via this. So you hit this tab. See, there's nothing here right now because mine's not connected. But then you would connect to it, and once you connected to it, it would open up the sampling tool, and then you can manage your samples. If you guys want me to walk through that process, let me know, and I'll make a video on that. So today's signal chain, very, very easy. I got the Roland P6. I'm not gonna be using any type of preamps. I'm not gonna be using any guitars. I'm going directly out of this and into what some of you guys have actually asked which speaker I'm using, because the separation of sounds and the clarity was great. This is the Soundcore Motion Boom Plus. It's a big speaker. It's waterproof. It sounds great, and it's cheap. I think I got it for like 125 bucks, 150 bucks at the most. But actually, I think there's a newer model available now, so you can pick these up for even cheaper. I would say do it when I'm not in the garage using my studio monitors or using either my Beyerdynamic DT, 1770s, or my Audio-Technica M50s. I only really use the M50s for tracking stuff, but I use the Beyerdynamics to mix. This thing is great. I love it, and I use it in the videos for that reason, because you can hear everything from it. So let's get started. So these are, I'm in bank A here, and these are the samples that I loaded. So here's the kick, the snare, and the closed and open hi-hats. Notice there's a little bit of degradation because I did export them as waves, but they're 8-bit because I wanted them to be a little bit crunchy, and I did add saturation to those. So on the next one, on pad 2, I just have the low, mid, and high tom. And then on pad 3 here, I got 2 congas, a cowbell, and the tambourine. So what we're gonna do here is, first I'm going to change the BPM. So it starts at 166. I'm gonna slow it down to 100. Now we're gonna turn on the metronome by hitting these two at the same time. Good, that's on. I'm gonna hit pattern here, and I'm gonna switch patterns. I don't think there's anything on, yeah, there's nothing on that pattern, so we're good. We're back at 120. Drop it down to 100. Good. So now I'm gonna go ahead and work with these. So I'm gonna hit keyboard now. So you see, if I just hit keyboard in the normal way, it's gonna play my samples, but it's gonna play the entire sample, right? So it's just gonna pitch it. That's not what we want. So we're gonna hold shift, and we're gonna go to voice, and then we're gonna go over to chop. Chop here, I'm gonna hit enter, and it's on off. I'm gonna switch it to 4, because I want 4 chops for this, because I know there's 4 drums. So now I hit exit. Now it's hit exit again, and now I got the kick, the snare, the closed hat, and the open hat. So I'm just gonna do the same things for pads 2 and 3. Here we go. All right. Shift, voice, chop, and we have 3 on that one. I'm gonna exit, exit. So now let's make sure they're both working. Here's the first pad, second pad. But when I go to the third pad, so here we go, shift, voice, enter, and we want 4 on this because there are 4 drums. So now and I'm happy with the volume, so I'm gonna keep that where it's at. Now, if you guys watched, I think it was my last video, there's a guitar sample on 4, right? So I don't want that entire length. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, I want it longer than that. And actually going to shorten it a little bit more. I just want that. There we go. So I'm actually going to have to pitch this down so that it fits the tempo. So let's... Let's try this again. Alright, I think I got it now. That'll work for me. Now I gotta go and change this. So I'm gonna hit shift, I'm gonna hit last, and I think I need a 64 step pattern. So let's go to 64. Let's hit exit. And I'm just gonna record this little guitar thing first. Just here we go. I'll take it. All right, now comes the drums. So this is going to be interesting just because of how small these little keys are. I got sausage fingers, so we'll see how it goes. All right, good. let's add some of the closed hat. What happened, but I'm gonna have to go back in and re-record some kicks, so whoa, some kind of glitch. I have no idea what it is, so I'm just gonna start this pattern all over. So I'm going to go to Shift and I'm gonna clear that pad. So now there shouldn't be any drums. Yep, let's do it all over again. This is crazy. Shift, quantize, shift, quantize, there we go. Let's try this again. One more time. Here we go. Shift. We're going to clear that pad. And I'm going to turn the quantization off because it's actually screwing with me. Yeah, that's better. Here we go. So I think what's happening here is I'm running out of voices. My kicks and my hi-hats are hitting at the same time. So that's a little issue that I ran into. And I think the way to handle it is, as he mentioned, you should only put kicks on one, snares on another. You basically can't have the same have this drums that are gonna hit at the same time on the same sample. So I'm gonna have to work around this problem, and I think the best thing to do is just get rid of that closed hi-hat. And so I'm gonna delete everything one more time. So turn that off. And here we go. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'm just gonna use the cowbell and the tambourine, and I'm not gonna have any hi-hats because the hi-hats keep stepping on the kick. So Okay, we need a bass. So I'm gonna trim up the end. Try that. Here we go. Wrong note. Okay. Here we go. All right, let's turn off this metronome. So I added lo-fi to the bass and to the guitar. You can kind of hear it's got some like artifacty stuff. I actually love it. Let's see how it sounds on the kick, on the drums. Doesn't really need it on the drums because I already added that saturation and compression to it. So that's pretty interesting. Now that we have it, let's go ahead and play with it. Let's have some fun. So I'm gonna start off by muting this. I'm gonna mute these as well. And now all we're gonna have is the bass, or the guitar, the bass, and then those the tambourine and the cowbell. So we're gonna start off with that. We'll play with some effects. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm actually doing. And let's have a little bit of fun. Here we go. tell you that was all right. There were some mistakes. Something I did with the quantization that's never really happened before. When I was putting in the drums, it was giving me issues. Also, just having some issues keeping everything triggering, because obviously I put kick, snare, and both hi-hats on this one pad. So when I went to enter in all 4 of those drums, I realized that there's some kind of like mute group thing happening automatically, where if I have a kick and then I trigger a hi-hat on the same step of the pattern, it's gonna mute the kick. And so I had to go and get rid of the hi-hats entirely and use cowbell and tambourine, which were on the 3rd pad, instead of those. Now that's something easy to fix, because I talked about it before. When you use something like this, you gotta kind of record with intent, with intention. So you gotta know what your limitations are and work around those, work within the parameters that you have. That said, that was fun. It was kind of choppy. The timing was a little off. I actually enjoy it. I actually might keep it. Now, the scatter effect was a little weird on that, if you notice as well. I think it might have something to do with my timing. Another mistake that I'll say that I made that contributed to that being a pretty mid creation is that I used samples from the guitar and the bass that I'd already sampled into this for another track. And when I sampled those into this, since this doesn't time stretch, you're not going to put a sample into this and then match it to the timing of your current project. I tried to do it using the pitch, but it didn't really work too well, or at least I wasn't able to tease apart what the actual timing and pitch matching was. I got it a little better when I sped it up than when I tried to do it by slowing down. But these are my mistakes. These are not the fault of the machine. As I said, I'm still learning this machine. That being said, that was really fun. And being able to kind of work around only having 48 samples by putting multiple samples on each pad is great. I think in the future, I'll go back and I'll mix up my samples differently. But for a first try, this was good. I got a lot of other, like I've got 808 samples, 909, 707, all kinds of weird, obscure drum machines, CR78s. So I'll probably spend some time chopping those up, assigning those to pads, and getting a feel for how to make it work so that I don't have as many limitations as far as what drums I can use. It's going to take some time, just like any piece of gear. Probably spent 4 or 5 hours now with this thing. By this time with the Medieval, I'd spent like 10, 15 hours. And I had a better understanding of it, even though I didn't enjoy the workflow as much. But I'm still loving this thing. I still had fun with that. As frustrating as some of the limitations I discovered were, and the mistake that I made, basically by being lazy and not wanting to sample more guitar into this or sample some keyboard into this, or, even turning on granular and using that. Because the granular sampling is not something that I've messed with at all to this point. And I think the next video will be that. But that being said, that's a great little trick. Thank you, Eternal, for turning me on to that. And he's also turned me on to a couple more things, like how to turn on the count in, because I wasn't sure how to do that. And the manual for this thing is my big gripe. I don't like the way the manual works. The fact that there aren't links in the contents for you to just press and go to. It just makes it horrible to use the manual, because you gotta like drag down blindly and hope you land roughly on a page close to the one you're looking for. There's a lot of scrolling that's involved. Like I said, the trick for loading multiple samples onto here wasn't mentioned in the manual at all. It did mention the step sampling and how you could chop, but it's a good little hack. It's a great little device. It's all charged up and ready to go, so I'll probably make more with this before I have to go and do what I gotta do today. Overall, I had fun, and it's just something else that's interesting that you could introduce while using this thing. What do you guys think below? Don't roast me too bad for that trash beat and the awful timing, but yeah, this thing's cool. I don't know. Should I make more stuff with guitar? Should I sample my guitar and then play with it granularly? What are your suggestions? I do love this thing. I am having fun with it. There's a lot more that I can dive into. Just a lot of menu diving with that. And I've honestly been spoiled with the MPC and spoiled with Beatmaker 3 and things like that as well. So menu diving is not something I usually get into. Menu diving for me is kind of like the kickflip for most skaters. You know, most people who try to skate, they quit once they start trying to learn a kickflip and it's too hard. Me, with most devices, I quit once I have to menu dive too much or memorize too many button combinations, just because there's other options out there where I don't have to do that. So usually I'm like, there's no reason for me to do that. But for some reason, this device has charm and it's keeping me here wanting to learn more. It might have to do with the form factor and how much is packed into this and just how much potential I see in being able to move around with this and not really worry about it. You know, for the price, $219, if something were to happen to it, you know, I would be upset, but not as upset as I would be if something happened to my MPC if I took that with me. So having something like this is cool. I'll get more of a hang of it. See you guys in the next one.